No way around it. When it comes to the Edmonton Oilers, fans and media are transfixed on who's no longer on the team as opposed to who will be pulling on the jersey. When a player of Chris Pronger's caliber walks away without explanation, well, there's no escaping the doubters.
Obviously, there's a lot of questions about our defense, and when you lose one of the best defensemen in the world, then people are going to ask questions. So we're just going to play our game and see where we are.
Here's what is left. Steve Staios and Captain Jason Smith are the two most experienced blue liners and will eat a ton of minutes. Daniel Sharnqvist came over from Minnesota. He, along with sophomore Matt Green and offensive-minded Marc-Andre Bergeron, should round out the top five. Ladislav Schmid, who came over in the Pronger deal, is promising, but is still only 20 years old.
Obviously, we don't have somebody that'll play 30 minutes a night like Prongs, but we got a group of guys that are going to be competitive, and we're going to be hard to play against in our own end. And I think our team defense is a lot better than what a lot of people think.
What they lack in experience and depth on the back end, they should make up for on the front end. The Oilers boast what they believe is one of the deepest offensive units in the league. The additions of Joffrey Lupul and Peter Sikora give them 8 players that could score 20 or more goals.
But right now we look pretty good on paper, but you know what they say. I mean, a lot of teams look good on paper before and didn't accomplish a lot. So I mean, we feel confident, but now it's a matter of going out there and getting it done.
And then when everybody's going, it's going to be pretty fun to watch. And you know, some nights some guys get shut down, but that's when other guys pick it up, and that's when that depth takes over. And hopefully it'll be a good start to the year and a good successful year that way.
Well, right now, I see us having a better regular season certainly than we had last year. Whether we have the same amount of success or a little more in the postseason will remain to be seen. But right now I see us having more success in the regular season. I sure hope so.
Another reason for optimism, the return of goaltender Dwayne Rolison. One of the biggest reasons the Oilers barely limped into the playoffs last year is the fact they had subpar goaltending through most of the regular season until Rolison arrived. Well, if he can regain the form he had during the playoffs, not only should the Oilers make the postseason, there is also the potential for home ice advantage. And as they showed last time around, all you got to do is get in, and anything can happen. Gino?
Thanks very much, Ryan. Some interesting facts in our Molson by the numbers. Each of the previous 3 Stanley Cup finalists did not experience a successful follow-up season. The Canes and Ducks missed the playoffs entirely, while the Flames were knocked out in the opening round. Now it's up to the Oilers to try to buck that trend. And Bob McKenzie, to hear Greg McTavish talk, he's saying, hey, we expect to have a much better regular season this year and even maybe more success in the postseason. He's very optimistic, but is that realistic?
Well, I think he's being realistic because ask this question. Are the Edmonton Oilers a better team now than the team that finished up in the Stanley Cup playoffs? And the answer is no, they're not. And the reason they're not is because of the loss of Chris Pronger. You can't take a 30-minute defenseman out of the lineup and not have it impact, especially on the power play where the Oilers are thinking of playing 5 forwards on the power play this year. But ask this question, and it's the more important question, really. Are the Edmonton Oilers a better hockey team now than they were a year ago? And this is what McTavish alludes to. Absolutely. You look at Dwayne Rolison in net, that's an upgrade over what they started last season with. You look at up front, picking up Joffrey Lupul. Having guys like Horcoff. A year ago, Horcoff had a huge question mark right on his forehead. He's a #1 center in the National Hockey League now. Hemsky's only going to get better. Raffi Torres is only going to get better. The group of forwards that they have this year is so much better than it was a year ago at this time. It's unbelievable. There are some question marks on defense. Sure, absolutely, the loss of Pronger will hurt, but at the end of the day, this is still a team that should make the playoffs.
And it's a new day, the new era of the NHL where they can afford to keep some of that young talent up front. Obviously, Pronger's gone on the blue line. How much weaker, or is the D weaker in general?
Well, no, the D is weaker, and everybody's talking about committee by defense by committee, and that's true. There's no question that a big load of this is going to fall on Jason Smith and Steve Staios. But what they're really hoping for is that a couple of other guys, Marc-Andre Bergeron, who's never really been confused with a top 4 defenseman, or Matt Green, who's a young guy, those 2 guys are going to have to step in and be top 4 defensemen for the Edmonton Oilers. That may be a tall order. And they're hoping that maybe a kid like Ladislav Schmid, who came over from Anaheim in the Pronger deal, is able to jump up and really surprise people. This guy's a great young defenseman, but it may take some time for him to get things going. So what they really need is they need some of the young guys to step up and see if they can really improve that defense. But if it turns out they can't, Kevin Lowe's a smart guy, and he's got tons of depth up front. He will do the same thing he did last year, and that is trade to get defensive help, experienced defensive help.
And let's not forget, last year, this is a team that just barely made the playoffs. They had a great playoff run, but they just barely made the playoffs. Hockey Insider, Bob McKenzie.